One of the most controversial topics surrounding Shadowlands has been loot, the state of loot. I've had a ton of discussion about it on the forums. I've had a bunch of discussion about it in the guild, on the stream, and today it really kind of came to a head. So there was a post, it's like a small interview, it's literally like 2 questions. I don't understand what like the purpose of something like this is. But anyway, Ian Hazakostas replied to 2 questions from PC Gamer. Maybe they ask more and they just don't use them. I have no idea. But the only thing of relevance here, I mean, you could read this. It's interesting. It's an interesting article. I'm not a big fan of these types of publications, but regardless, the info's here. Now that Shadowlands is out, are there any big pieces of feedback you're working to address? We're humbled by players' responses to Shadowland, but we know that launching an expansion isn't the end of us, rather than a new beginning. The team is listening closely, blah, blah, blah. One big topic of discussion has been the way loot works in Shadowlands Endgame. We significantly reduced the rate at which players earn item rewards, but at the same time also stripped away randomness and tried to give everyone more clear goals to pursue and control over their progress towards them. When it comes to PvP itemization specifically, we're really happy with how that's playing out. But we think we can do more to make the experience of running dungeons and raids more satisfying when you don't get a specific item you were hoping for. So these are really important words. And honestly, I don't know like what exactly is going on, but I will tell you this for sure. They don't just randomly do these interviews for no reason. Okay. So this interview was picked up and posted like the second it was made. Okay. I don't think there's actually a timestamp, but actually there is 8 hours ago and 7 hours ago. Okay. So this is not a by accident kind of thing. This isn't like Ian's like hanging out, tweeting, you know what I mean? Like, no, this was a coordinated, like, it was intentional. Okay. The last time something like this was intentional, that I remember at least, was Torghast. He did like a 2-question interview with some random news outlet, and they literally changed Torghast the next day. Okay. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it doesn't really matter because it's more about what might happen in the future and what the future looks like. Okay. And I just want to say this article is like very misleading. I mean, this is literally all this person's opinion, whoever wrote this article, and it's written like if it's coming from Ian. I don't like that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's not worry about that. So anyway, what these words mean and what they could mean for the future. Okay. I've been talking a lot about this, and just tonight we had a kind of like it's like a summit almost about like this conversation about PvP gear. Okay, so if you're not aware, PvP gear right now is looked at as like very rewarding because it's very controlled. You can get a set number per week depending on the amount of effort you put in. You can't get like an infinite amount, but you can get a lot. Okay. And that is extremely different than how it was in BFA's PvP world. Okay. So if you didn't play PvP in the past, you don't know that it was fucking terrible. Like literally, it was terrible gear. You could not get good gear from PvP at all. And your best gear was from raids, like basically raids and Mythic Plus. I know a guy who literally had to like pay people to do Mythic Plus with him because he didn't know a single person who was doing them, and he basically like boost them in arenas, and then they would help him with Mythic Plus. That's how severe it was. This is in Battle for Azeroth. Now it's the complete opposite, okay? And a lot of people aren't happy about that. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my thoughts on this, because this is something that has been asked a lot in the stream, and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about it, and then we'll cap on what is going to happen, okay? And what I believe is going to happen. Just my opinion, but from what I've seen and understood about situations like this in the past, what is going to happen in the future. So first of all, he even says it significantly reduced the rate at which players earn item rewards. Okay. Now, he doesn't mention that for PvE specifically, but that's obviously what he's talking about. Okay, it's a lot less loot. So there's 2 things that have happened here. First of all, they've reduced the amount of item drops from like most content by 1. Okay, that's it, just by 1. Okay, that's something that a lot of people don't seem to understand. In Legion, if you use personal loot, you had a chance at 5 items per 20 players, and that was an incentive towards personal loot. And I thought that was in through BFA, but apparently it was not. Okay, I don't know that 100%, but I'm 90% sure that was not in during BFA. So it was 4 with a chance of 5 in Legion with personal loot, but that was when Master Looter used to exist. If you use Master Looter, you only got 4 per 20. Then in BFA, it was 4 per 20 regardless, because it's only the one difficulty. Now it's 3 per 20. No chance of 4, from what we can tell. So that's in a raid, okay? And then in a 5-man, it's 2 pieces of loot if you upgrade the key, and if you fail to upgrade the key, it is 1 piece of loot. But above 15, there's a 20% chance to have another piece of loot. So if you ran a 20, there would be 3 pieces of loot, okay? And that continues to proliferate up. Obviously, the people who are doing 20s do not need fucking 210 gear, though. That's another problem. Not really going to try to go into that. Well, actually, I kind of am in a different way. But so they did that, okay? And that's what everybody's noticing. Like, literally on the forums, you cannot go a day without somebody complaining about loot, all right? And all the common complaints are like, this sucks. I did a whole X content and I got nothing, okay? It's like, that's gonna fucking happen. You're not gonna get a guaranteed piece from anything, okay? So that is just out. That's not a complaint that is ever going to be addressed, okay? So, and then somebody in our guild said we raided the whole tier of Nyalotha and they never got an item that they wanted. And again, that's just out, okay? No matter what they change, that's not going to change, all right? They're not just going to give you the exact item you want. That's never going to happen, all right? And even if they do what I think they're going to do, it's still not going to work. Very unlikely that it's still going to work that way. Maybe very, very unlikely in my opinion. But there's items that are designed to be more valuable. Like getting a weapon or a trinket is obviously better than getting a freaking pair of bracers, right? Like that's part of the video game that we play, okay? So you have to understand that in order to keep those items balanced in what their like value is to the community, you can't just give the player the weapon immediately, because then they're never going to care about anything from the boss again. And this psychology is very important to understand. I don't think a lot of people understand this, okay? So anyway, so they did that. And people continue to say things like it's impossible to gear now. They make up this hyperbolic nonsense where they're saying like I ran 40 Mythic Plus dungeons and didn't get a single loot, and that's actually words that come out of people's mouth. I'm not even exaggerating. Like more than 20, 30. People say 20, 30, 40. I ran 182 dungeons, okay? I challenge you, if you're complex, but you're finding complexity in acquiring loot, look at my blood DK. It's going to be very difficult to do because a lot of the runs I don't actually record the chest because it's not it's not going to be easy. But if you really want to take this serious, I have every single run, 182 runs or something like that on this spreadsheet, okay? Go here. I'll show it to you right now. Go here. Look at the VOD that's on the right. And again, a lot of these aren't going to have me looting the chest, unfortunately. But find all the fucking loot that I get and tell me if I did not get what I was supposed to get. I promise you I did, okay? And if I didn't, then we have a real problem here. But I guarantee you nobody is running 40 dungeons and not getting loot, okay? That's insane. Even if you downgrade every single key, you should still get 1 item per 5 dungeons. If you're getting 0 items per 10 dungeons, that's extremely unlucky. If you're getting 0 items per 15 dungeons, that's ridiculously unlucky. If you're getting 0 items per 20 dungeons, that is to the absurd unluckiness that you cannot be truthful. I do not believe you, okay? And that's if you downgrade every single key, which I really hope you're not doing, okay? So anyway, first of all, it's not real. A lot of this is just fake. It's just people like making up scenarios that they're like manifesting themselves. It's like, oh, I did a dungeon and I didn't get loot. Well, that means I did 2 dungeons because I really don't like doing dungeons. And second of all, it's like this expected outcome. There's probably like a word for it, but it's like people expect to get nothing. So then when they get nothing, they're like, oh, I told you, you know what I mean? But like, you shouldn't be doing this, okay? Like, first of all, if you did keys only for loot for 6 months, you wouldn't be playing the game anymore. Like, there's no loot to be gained from them, all right? And that's not going to change. Like, the second thing they did, so they lowered the amount of loot, but they did this other thing that people don't seem to understand, okay? And I've been talking about this a lot. They removed titanforging, okay? That is the biggest change that this game has ever undergone. Do you understand this? When they added Mythic Plus, its value was predicated by artifact power at the time and titan forging. That was how it worked. You used to get 3 items if you triple, like, upgraded the key like the 3 times. At the time when it was added, it was about like you were going to blow the doors off these dungeons so you can farm titan forges. That's actually why it was added. Okay, and like changed the focus of how you got gear from dungeons, because obviously it was ridiculous. People were like literally only doing 7s just so they could farm titan forging. That was never going to work. And so now it's just 1 item, like, 1 chest. There's no 3 chests or whatever. So they could make changes that facilitate that, but it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. You don't need loot from these. These are 210 items. Nobody wants this. You know what I mean? It's not there for that, and it doesn't work without titan forging. So all these people who are like, I can't believe I'm not getting any loot from 5-mans. It's like, good, because once you get it, what are you going to do? You don't even play the content because you enjoy it. You're doing content that's there for infinite progression, difficulties like curve up to infinite, and you're complaining about loot. It's like, dude, you're really doing this content for the wrong reasons. So I'm not surprised that Blizzard is trying to slow you down in it. Please do not do keys for loot 6 weeks into the season, man. Because first of all, you're doing everybody in the group a disservice. They're there for multiple reasons, and maybe loot is one of them. Okay, and there's some items and stuff, but it's like keys should be about like progression, whether it's about you progressing or the group progressing or just having fun and challenging yourself. You cannot be doing content like this for loot, man. And it's the same with raiding. Okay, raiding is different because you actually need the gear to succeed. 5-mans, I say it all the time, you do not need gear to succeed in 5-mans. You could do some wacky things in there. Like, people are doing keys with no healer. Like, okay, so regardless, in raids, it's a little different. Obviously, if you got no loot in raids, you could not raid. You cannot kill these bosses just because the health pools that we have are too important. But it's the same thing. I'm telling you right now, there's one thing that I've always looked to weed out in my guild of 12 years, been a raid leader for 12 years. I will never bring somebody who's only there for loot. In fact, we actually just had somebody like this in Nyalotha, and I talked to them for 20 minutes to be sure that we're on the same page. This person was a very skilled player, and they had effectively told me to my face the only reason they were raiding was because they needed extra gear from Mythic Plus that they could not get from Mythic Plus. He was a very, very serious Mythic Plus player. He was only coming to raid to gear up. And I said to him point blank, I'm like, we do not accept people in that boat. That is not something we do here. And we had a back and forth for 20 minutes. We eventually agreed, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, that guy's not in this guild anymore. I mean, he is technically, but he doesn't raid with us anymore. I haven't heard from him in months. He had some real life things come up, and I've never heard from him again. And that's not like anything to say, but that to me, that I predicted that like before it happened, because anybody who is like literally only doing content because they want something from it, like they want something that's not intangible, like not an emotional connection or progression or skill, like, to prove that I'm getting better every week. You want some reward in a video game, which is, it's a video game. Like, sure, I understand most people are connected to the game they play, but like, if you ever don't care about the game, then you're definitely not going to care about the raid and the loot that's coming from it. You know what I'm saying? So when you raid, you have to have a social connection. Like, I don't give a fuck about the game. When I'm in raid, it's the 20 people I'm in there with. I have a dedication to them. I don't care about what drops. I don't care about what we're doing. I've said this for years. I could fight a gray blob in a gray room and love every minute of it because it's not what it's about. You know what I mean? Getting off on a tangent. But anyway, titan forging is the key piece to this. And I don't think people fully understand it, because without titan forging, what is going to happen in PVE is we are going to come to a circumstance where there is no longer any possible upgrades in the content we're doing. And that is going to suck. I'm telling you right now, I've said this in BFA when they removed it for corruption, and I'm saying it all beta, and nobody's listening. Everybody's like, oh, titan forging sucked, bro. It's like, okay, maybe you think it did. I don't really care. You're wrong, but I don't really care, okay? Titan forging's removal is insanely detrimental to this game's current PvE progression system, and I'd say it cannot work currently how it is. It's only passable now because we haven't met this threshold. And the threshold is when you need 0 loot anymore. How do you progress? When there is no more gear to be gained and no more player power to be gained, what do you do when you're wiping on the 7th mythic boss? You quit. That's what you fucking do. And that's what happened in Wrath and Cataclysm and Mop and every fucking expansion we did before they added these infinite progression systems. And Mythic Plus is different because of like the infinite progression. But in a raid, when you're wiping week after week to a boss and you have no way to improve other than you put extra time in your character and get better, people just quit. Okay. And it's not good. It's not good for the game. It's not good for anybody. It's not good for people who are dedicating themselves to the game. Very, very scary possibility here. Okay. So it's like, so why is this an issue? Because first of all, people are like, we want more loot. Like, look at this fucking thread, right? The first reply, of course they can do more. Increase drop rates. It just does not feel good running raids and getting the damn 35 anima all the time. First of all, the anima thing, I don't know what the fuck's going on there. I have no idea why it gives 35. If I don't even think, does that happen in raids? It should be more than that. But regardless, this should be scaling off difficulty. But like, people are focusing on this because they're low IQ. Like they don't understand the issue. I hate to say it, but they actually don't understand the issue at its heart. They think like, oh, I rated this content and I only got 35 anima, man. This sucks. It's like you don't understand what you're asking for. And this is how we got into this position in the first place. This is why we're in this position. Because titanforging was in the game. People fucking misunderstood what was good and bad about it. They misunderstood what was valuable about gear and titanforging in general to the systems we had. And they were like, remove it, I hate you, remove it, I hate you, you know? It's like, they fucking listen to your dumbass. They remove the shit that cannot be removed. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? So you're asking for the same fucking thing and you don't know what you're asking for now. You're saying, I want more loot. Good. You're going to get more loot and then you're going to quit. Like, what do you want loot for? You know, for real, what do you need it for? Are you playing at the top mythic level? No, then get fucking better. Stop blaming loot. You know what I mean? I understand it sucks. You do raid, you get no loot. It doesn't feel good. I know this. As a raid leader, I understand this. Everybody wants to be rewarded for their efforts. But it doesn't matter. If they increase it back to 4 items per raid, you're still going to get no loot sometimes. You know this, right? You know they didn't remove all loot from the game. I hope people understand this because I swear it's the same bullshit that we went through with fucking Classic. It's the exact same goddamn mentality where people literally don't even know what they're saying. They just heard somebody else say it and they keep fucking saying it. Look me in the fucking eyes right now and watch me remind you that you still get fucking loot in this game. They could add it 4 items. They could add 5 items. They could add 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter. You can still get no loot from dungeons and raids. Okay? Please be aware of that. And more importantly, what are you going to do when you get that loot? When you have every piece of gear in the game and there is nothing else to be gained and you're still 3 or 4 months away from a new season, what are your plans? Tell me. Answer in the fucking comments because I want to hear people admit that they're not going to continue to play their character. I know it for a fact. I've seen it for years, decades. I've seen this game do the same shit. Happens in Classic very clearly. Raid log, people literally don't even log on because there's nothing else for them to do. So great. You got the infinite progression difficulty stuff out of the game. There's no more AP. There's no more titanforging. There's no more currencies to get for players like me who just love playing my DK. I don't care. I'm going to play it anyway. I'm going to do keys anyway. I'm going to do less of them. I'm going to do less of everything because there's nothing for me to get. But sure, maybe it's a healthier environment. And maybe loot matters more now. It certainly does. You could clearly see the upgrades every week. Every week as a raid, we get stronger. We're blowing the doors off fights that we were wiping 2 weeks ago. So the answer is not give more loot. It's create a better system for the loot. We had titanforging. That was a system that worked, okay? Maybe you didn't like it, but now that it's gone, the system doesn't work. So guess what they have to do? They have to create a new system, and what they're going to do, based on what I've read here, is they're going to make a system exactly like PvP. I think PvP is the progenitor to what they're going to be doing probably in season 2, but I would not be surprised at all if on Monday we get some big news and there's some big change coming. But it might not happen in season 2, obviously. I mean, that would be ridiculous if it happened now. But what I can see is exactly how it works in PvP. So let's recap what they could do, okay? So right now, because there's no Titan forging, you cannot get any upgrades at all from Mythic Plus. You will get 0 upgrades. I need nothing. I mean, it's not true, but there would be no gear in Mythic Plus at some point. So no matter what I do in there, it's only for the weekly vault. So they're trying to propagate this all on the weekly vault. But PvP already does that. PvP already has the weekly vault. Why is PvP better? Because you could upgrade your gear. You could get gear that starts at this level and you could work continually to get it better. So now Faxi's been talking about this for years and other people as well. Like a lot of people bring this up. The solution, maybe if they didn't remove Titan forging, was kind of like make it kind of plateau so you can't get something higher, then that would trivialize the game, because that was a lot of the weird parts about Titan forging. You could like run LFR and get a mythic item level piece, and that was a little weird, admittedly. But maybe make it capped at normal, so LFR goes to normal, and then you're constantly like farming for it. But then you turn into this system where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna farm until I have the normal gear from LFR, then I'm gonna do normal and the heroic gear from normal. It's like, or they can literally just turn it into a currency, which is exactly what is going on in PvP. Okay, so what they're going to probably, in my opinion, what they're probably going to do is they're going to make a system where you could upgrade your gear a fixed amount, just like in PvP right now. I believe it's every 7 item levels. Okay, so like 1600 and then 1800 is like a 7 item level jump. Okay, so they will do the same thing with Mythic rating and PvP and Battlegrounds or whatever, like Mythic Plus, all the different content pathways that currently reward gear. You would get a piece from any of that and it would start at whatever. So like it would be different because in PvP, it all starts at the same item level and you upgrade it based on where you're at. So that could be how it works in Mythic Plus, which starts at 210, and the more keys you do, the more you could upgrade it. But in Raid, it would be different, and I don't know exactly how they would handle it. And this is probably why they're not going to do exactly what I'm saying, because it just wouldn't make any sense. Like if you got something from a 14 that's 207, how is that going to work if you upgrade it to 215, but then you get to 210? Now you have to upgrade that. It's going to get really sloppy. But I think they'll find a way to do it. And I think how it's gonna work is there's gonna be a shared currency. So right now it's honor for the PvP gear, but I would say valor for Mythic Plus and Raid. And you could upgrade like a set amount per week, and it could be based on how far you've pushed. So if you've done a 20, you could upgrade that loot to max like some rank that's really prestigious, like 226 or whatever the number is, And this is basically what people have been asking for years. They've said, why does a 15 give heroic loot and nothing goes above that? And Blizzard was like, well, we don't want people farming the loot, right? Because like so this is the quandary. Like, okay, so great, you get what you want. There's now 5 pieces of loot in every box in Mythic Plus. Every time you kill, you upgrade a key, all players get 1 item. Okay. So now it's just better than raiding. Like that's not going to happen in raid. You're not going to get a single piece every single time you kill a boss. There's 10 bosses. You're going to kill some of them in 2 hours total. Like you're going to kill all 10 bosses in 2 hours. You can't get 10 items in 2 hours. That's ridiculous. So that's not going to happen in raiding. So if you wanted in Mythic Plus, then you have this situation where it's just objectively faster to gear in Mythic Plus for raiding, because it's the same gear. It's like not any different. So they have to temper this. So what they've done here is they've reduced the item level in Mythic Plus so it's not as good as raiding, right? Like they don't want people going in Mythic Plus and gearing for raiding exclusively. And that's what they did in BFA. But it's more than just that, because what they did was they made it so you can't actually trade Mythic rating, like heroic rating gear now at all from PvP. The only valuable, I keep saying PvP, but I mean Mythic Plus. The only valuable gear from Mythic Plus at all is basically if it has a socket and leech and stuff, or from the actual weekly cache. That's actually it. Okay. And that sucks, right? Obviously, compared to BFA, it's ridiculously bad. But it's the mentality that you need to understand, because that's going to be how they continue to do it. They're not going to allow you to do a 20 the first week, the first, like, because no, I understand 20s are very, very difficult. It's a bad example. But what I mean to say is you have infinite tries at getting this gear in Mythic Plus. You do not have that in rating, okay? So if you were somehow capable of farming 20s, but you still cannot kill mythic bosses, and even if you did, you only had one chance, it's just better. So that's not going to happen. They're not going to allow you to get mythic raid gear item level from completing any key. That will never happen. But instead, they will allow you to get a currency that will upgrade this gear, okay? That will turn this gear into 226 gear if you're completing 20s. I don't know how they'll handle it, but I could see it happening because, and again, I'm going to tell you why I could see it happening. We significantly reduced the rate at which players, blah, 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 stripped away randomness. Okay, these are not accidental words. Stripped away randomness. Yes, agreed. But did you really? I mean, this is not, you didn't really do this. In fact, a lot of people say they actually increase the randomness because now you just get less loot. So it's less likely that you get anything at all. So it's like, okay, it's not true. So what does he mean by this? It's like he's already talking about the future and tried to give everyone more clear goals to pursue. You didn't do that. Again, that did not happen in PVE, right? But is he talking about the future already? Like, is he thinking about what the future looks like, and to pursue and control over their progress towards them? He's talking about a currency, right? Like that's the only way you can describe that. Stripped away randomness, more clear goals, control over progress towards them. Okay. When it comes to PvP items specifically, we're really happy. Again, they would not say these things if that didn't mean the system was working, okay? And how that's playing out. But we think we can do more to make the experience of running dungeons and raids feel more satisfying when you don't get a specific item you were hoping for. What could they do? Wait, what do you mean when you don't get a specific item you were hoping for? What would you get instead? Something that allows you to get another item, right? That's the only other solution. Like, if you don't get a specific item you were hoping for and you're disappointed with that, they're not just going to give you the specific item. So they're not going to just increase loot. Like, do you understand that? I hope people are starting to understand this. I really do. I hope this video makes an impact on people because the amount of people like this, I mean, this is really embarrassing, guys. These kind of comments are so bad for the community. You don't understand the issue. And this is why we have an issue in the first place, because it's the same brainless people who listen to influencers who barely understand the game in the first place, talk about shit that they're just regurgitating because it gets them views. And you see these things all the time in the forums. People literally just linking someone else's opinion. It happened today on the forums. Somebody literally just linked a video of somebody else. They didn't even give an opinion. It's like, dude, get out of here. I don't want to see this shit. You're sheep. You're just thinking like this guy's opinion is more valid than mine, so I'm not even going to have my own. Just think about what you're asking for. And this is a problem because when you have 100,000 people who all have the same opinion and 90% of them don't know why they have the opinion, it doesn't matter to Blizzard. They're like, 100,000 people say this, so we're doing it. But you didn't even understand what you asked for. If you thought about it, 50,000 of those people would be like, oh, actually, I don't want that. Because now we're here. This is so predictable. I fucking predict this shit like it's nothing. I said the same fucking thing about Classic, and people called me an idiot. I said the same thing about titanforging, and I fought tooth and nail with people on the beta streams telling you that this is going to kill PvE gearing. And where are we now? We got people... The fact that I'm decked out in 226 PvP items for mythic rating is a big issue. If I didn't do PvP, I'd probably still be 210. Good. Let's add something that makes the fucking gear work back to the game. You got the previous system removed. However you feel about titanforging, that's fine. Now there's no system at all. It's literally just a broken system, and that needs to change. So thank you for watching. I'm very eager to hear your thoughts down below.